So I had kind of a backhanded compliment the other day. I was pulling the RV. Terry and I were camp hosting, so we came back to Madison for the bulk of the summer, and we were camp hosts at one of the county parks that we stayed at in the Madison area. There were like 3 of them that we rotated through, and Madison's such a cool place that it was great to be able to spend time with the family there and the lakes and everything. We kayaked, and Wisconsin's just a beautiful place in the summertime. But anyway, I had gone to dump the tanks, and my daughter was there waiting for us to get back, I think, if I remember the story right. But anyway, as we pulled in, one of the other campers saw us coming and hadn't seen our RV before, and said something to the fact that, well, there's money. But in reality, you know, our RV is 15 going on 16 years old and costs less than what some of the newer pickups to pull a fifth wheel cost. So anyway, we did have it painted, so it does look nice. And so I was flattered that somebody thought it was worth tons of money. But I have done some things to fix it up and make it so that it fits our style of RVing. And our style of RVing is a mixture. We spend some of our time in campgrounds with hookups, and some of the times we are dry camping in campgrounds, or sometimes we're just outright boondocking in the middle of nowhere. So I think people with Class A RVs usually tend to be more geared for RV resort type camping, state park type camping, that sort of thing, more so than perhaps we are, because we try and keep our costs down so that we can afford to do this. But anyway, so a couple of things that I've done. One is that I had put in the typical setup, which was 4 6-volt golf cart batteries, which provided a couple hundred amp hours of capacity. But what you don't realize when you're putting those things in is that if you take that capacity down below 50%, you will begin to damage the batteries and reduce their lifespan. So really, they don't hold what you think. I mean, they hold it, you just can't use it. So the other thing is that we have a generator, but I'm a big proponent of clean, renewable energy, and I decided to put my money where my mouth is and put solar panels on the RV so that we can reduce the need to run the generator when we're boondocking. So my project this summer while we were back in Madison was to redo the electrical system. So what I did is we worked with RV Battery Express, and I got 4 lithium iron phosphate 200 amp hour batteries, and I wired them in parallel. Now, I would have liked to have wired them in series and done 2 banks of 24 volts each, and then you fed 24 volts into an inverter. You need less current under that situation, and so your wires can be smaller. But the house systems all run off at 12 volts, so I would have had to have converted back somewhere from the 24 volts back to 12. And you want to use these lithium batteries equally. And so if I just had hooked onto one to take 12 volts off of it, well, I was worried about doing it that way. Let me put it that way. So what I did is I set up these 4 batteries so that I have 800 amp hours of 12 volt power. Now the great thing about lithium iron phosphate is that it's a constant voltage, and it goes both ways. It's almost constant until it falls off the cliff when the batteries are going to be empty, and it's almost constant. When you're charging them, it stays constant until the batteries are full, and then it shoots up. So the great thing is that you can use safely, without damaging the batteries, 80% of the lithium ion capacity. So that means that basically out of the 800 amp hours I've installed, we've got 640 amp hours of usable capacity. For us, we've got one major flaw in our electricity usage, and that is we like to have ice. And we've got a really great ice maker, and it uses a lot of power. So even with the solar panels, on a best day, we might break even on power. I put in 320 watts for the moment. I will probably double that once I get everything tested and gone through. But anyway, I put in a new inverter because it charges. It has a setting to charge the lithium iron phosphate batteries, and what it really does is it charges at full power until the battery's basically about to be full, and then it goes into a float mode, but at 13.7 volts. So, or that's the charge that it uses when it's in the float mode. So basically, in a normal charging situation, you only charge at full capacity for, they call it, I want to say bulk charge. I think that was it in a normal 3-stage charger anyway, and I'll correct that in the video if need to. But it does a high output charge, and then it switches to a constant voltage charge. So it starts out constant current, then switches to a constant voltage charge. And when it does that, it slows the current flow into the batteries way down, because lead acid batteries charge slower. Absorption charge was the one. So one of them's bulk, absorption, and then float. And I believe it's the absorption charge that it slows way down in what kind of current the battery can take. If you kept running it at that high current, the voltage would ramp up and the battery would gas, which you don't want to have happen. So, or excessively anyway. So anyway, long story short, I put in these batteries then that can accept a full rate of charge, basically right up until they're full practically. The other thing about the lithium batteries is that they can be used without charging them up all the way. So the lithium batteries can be, they don't need to be charged back fully. In other words, they don't have a memory. So if you use 50% and don't charge it and then charge it up to 60% later, not a big deal. They don't have a memory. And they accept a lot more cycles of deep discharge than the lead acid batteries, supposedly. We'll see. So I replaced the batteries, which because of the size of them, required me to move them to a basement compartment, and then so I moved the inverter there as well, and then I put the solar panels on. And most people run their solar panels down through the vent for the refrigerator. In my case, our refrigerator sits up above the furnace, and I didn't want to have to drill holes through where the refrigerator is down into the furnace area. So for me, it was much simpler to put some new holes in the roof over the bedroom, basically in one of our cabinets, and then feed the solar wires down through the cabinet. And I did wire the solar panels up in series so that they're putting out 24 volts, and so that I can get by with a little smaller diameter wire, which is basically what comes with solar panels. So I hooked those up and then installed a very surprisingly inexpensive, I think it was somewhere less than $200 for sure, MPPT charge controller that can handle 40 amps. I put that in, and fed the wires into it, and so far everything seems to work fine on all of that stuff. So we'll see. I've got a couple of other changes that I need to make wiring wise down the road, but for the moment anyway, everything is fine and seems to be working great, and we'll just see how this year goes. We're now officially back on the road, so we'll use this. So it either works well or it doesn't. So far it's worked great, and I love how fast it can take a charge. So you know, if we run it down over several days and I don't have enough solar going in for what we're using, I can power that generator up for an hour and make a big dent in refilling the batteries. So anyway, that's what we've done, and the pictures of the installation were going by as I talked about it, but not hard to do, and I think will pay dividends over the year.